in the 8th and final team over TNC, then I think you could argue TNC it was more deserving of the spot over Wings. Because TNC has been really on a big tear as of late. Oh my god! Ad Finem is a 3rd team! Wow! Ad Finem. What are they doing? Why are they doing it like this? I'm honestly in a little bit of shock. First off, whoever's doing this, whoever decided to suggest the order for this, for this compendium invite list here, I feel like they messed up a little bit because they're getting the shock. Unless teams like EG and DC don't end up being an invite team, this is going to turn out to be a pretty boring finish now because we've already got the 2 teams that we weren't really sure about, right? Wings Gaming off the bat, and now Ad Finem. So, okay, I have a lot to say about Ad Finem, so we'll get right into that right here. Ad Finem, I really think TNC deserves the invite over Ad Finem here. I personally am not a fan of seeing Ad Finem over TNC, and I'll pull up kind of their profile so we can kind of, have a less, biased look by any means. First off, I'll stress this, and anyone that's been following me knows this. I love Ad Finem. I love Ad Finem as a team. I happen to be half Greek myself. I love the Greek power. I was at the Boston Major. I had a lot of fun watching them at the Boston Major. I was sitting with their behind-the-scenes guys, with their manager and everything while they were playing. Fuck yeah, Ad Finem. Part of me is happy to see them getting invited, knowing that they're going to be there. But when it comes to deserving the spot, I do not think they deserve the spot. I really think they should have had to qualify for it. Now, there's the obvious. We'll start with the obvious. They are the runner-up from the most recent major. They're the runner-up from the Boston Major. Yes, that should mean something. Kind of. They're the runner-up at the Boston Major, but since then, they've had frankly disappointing results. And I think this is a little bit different than a lot of other majors in the past from major to major. Again, I am newer to the Dota 2 scene, so I can't say this with certainty, but correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in chat, but I believe this is the biggest change within the game that we've had between majors, as far as a big patch change, right? We had patch 7.00 come out basically right after the Boston Major. So I feel like things that happened after the Boston Major should matter that much more, should be that much more significant, because in a sense the game is a bit different. It's not completely different. I'm not saying Ad Finem is completely shit by any means, but it is a different game in a lot of ways. So I feel like it's almost not, shouldn't necessarily be a clean slate, but the idea that they're the runner-up from the Boston Major should be a little less significant. Now, you look at the results at the Boston Major, couple of qualifiers they didn't qualify for. Now, not qualifying is one thing. Okay, they didn't qualify. European region is a very tough region. That's understandable. But getting 4th place in the Star Ladder qualifiers here, very disappointing result, frankly. You look right here, this is the group stage format where top 2 moved on out of the 8. They finished 4th place. Team Secret and Liquid claimed the 2 spots. They finished with a 2-3-2 record. Not the most flattering record. Again, it's solid. It's solid, and the European region is tough. Not the most flattering record, though. On top of that, the Dota 2 Asian Championship qualifiers, they finished in a very disappointing last place in groups. They did not take a single game. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a team that just got invited to the Kiev Majors. Look at these two. These are 2 of the bigger events that happened for these teams. And they just got invited to the Kiev Major. I'm sorry. I love Ad Finem as a team. This is not a team that deserves an invite. Let's go ahead and compare it to TNC Pro. TNC Pro, on the other side, you're looking at a team... Obviously, they are a bit of a newer team right here. Now, to be fair, if we're taking TI6 even into consideration, like you got to think Wings Gaming definitely had that working in their favor. They finished 7th and 8th at the TI6. Again, they were kind of one of these surprise teams that ended up doing very well, similar to an Ad Finem in a lot of ways, that kind of came up out of nowhere, it feels like. Okay, we're going to have the next team, by the way. Yeah, 20 seconds. I'll put it back on this tab real quickly as I'm continuing on my point right here. Again, I feel like this is gonna be like EG right here. Well, we'll see what this is, and I'll get back to my point in just a second. This is probably going to be EG, though, would be my guess. Oh, okay. They go with Liquid. Interesting. So we'll talk about them in a second right here. But so going back to Ad Finem, though, real quickly, as Team Liquid is your fourth invite team now officially. So let's look at TNC Pro Team. You're looking at a team that, again, finished 7th and 8th at the TI6. Like I said, that's a while ago now, but you got to figure it's had some bit of influence, considering Wings Gaming was right away the first time invited team there, and most certainly helped them. Now, as far as the results since then, they got first at the WESG. Okay, I was the first to say that when the WSG happened, that it should not be an event that really affects that much, if any, when it comes to doing an invite to a major event. However, it was an event that one of the first bigger events post 7.0, and there was some decent competition there. Again, it wasn't the craziest competition, but there was some decent competition there. There were teams like Alliance, like Cloud9, like Infamous out of South America, who, by the way, has their own invite team. We'll get to that in a little bit later on as well. But it has to mean at least a little bit of something, right? So they have that result to at least work with. Again, I'm not saying that this is what really pushes them over the edge. Now, this, on the other hand, taking first place in the Southeast Asian qualifiers and doing so in fairly dominating fashion for the Star Ladder event, definitely was a great result there. And then on top of that, they actually finished 3rd, 4th at the Star Ladder main event. They really showed at a LAN event what I consider to be, and I think a lot of people would agree, was one of the better LAN tournaments that we've had post Boston Major and 7.0 here, if not the best. They finished 3rd, 4th. They lost to Team Liquid in the end, but they got over Secret and IG Vitality out of Group A right there, as you see with their results. So, knowing that on top of qualifying for in the first place in fairly dominating fashion, and then finishing 3rd in the Dota 2 Asian Championship qualifiers, that was a little bit of a hiccup, to be fair, behind both, of course, Faceless, who is another great team, no doubt, and then Warriors Gaming Unity, who has been on a little bit of drop. This is a result that kind of sets them back and puts them on par, I feel like, with Ad Finem, as like, okay, are they really deserving over Ad Finem when you look at that result right there? And then actually in the Mr. Cat Invitational, yeah, they ended up having to forfeit out. So that's an event that's kind of been going on lately for the Moonduck. But it's still going on. I don't know if you can necessarily take that in too much consideration. But I'm kind of comparing these results. So, I mean, I guess I'm looking at it right now, trying to not be very biased by any means. Not that I would be. But, I don't know. These results just speak to me as a team that feels like is a bit more deserving. They happen to also be from a region that, outside of them getting the invite, no other Southeast Asian team is going to get an invite to the event. Obviously, it's not going to be a Faceless by any means, I wouldn't think, at least. So, I mean, I guess you could make an argument for Faceless as well, seeing that they did fairly well at the Dota Pit. They also qualify for the Dota 2 Asian Championship. So, you could argue Faceless, now that I'm thinking about it, as another team that potentially could be claiming the spot over Ad Finem when it comes to their recent results. Again, they finished 3rd at the Dota Pit, one of the better events. They got 2nd in the Star Ladder Southeast Asian qualifiers behind, of course, TNC, as we're just talking about. And then they won the Dota 2 Asian Championship qualifiers to top it all off. So, actually a team that maybe you could consider as well deserving a spot over Ad Finem once again. Because, again, when you look at what Ad Finem has done, it frankly is not much / even disappointing. Now, I know there's this argument that has been brought up as we get about a minute left here before the 5th invite comes out, that, then teams just wouldn't play. Teams would be better off just not playing in between majors. Like Ad Finem would have been better off not playing between the Boston Major and the Kiev Major, and then they shouldn't have played if you're going by your logic, Breaky. Well, frankly, if a team openly decides not to participate in events between majors just because they want to try to claim that invite spot, they shouldn't get that spot. Like, it's simple as that to me. I don't know why there's this argument here, why there's this idea like, oh, well, then they just won't play. Like, okay, well, then they won't get the spot. Like, why is that so hard? Why is that such a hard thing to suggest that a team should have to continue to prove themselves over time? Again, I go back to, especially since we had this massive 7.00 patch come out that really did shift the game in a lot of ways. So I don't think that argument holds much bearing, frankly. And and unless they're simply just getting invited to events like an OG or like an EG or whatever, then they should be participating in said events and winning or doing very well in said events, which they frankly didn't. So, again, that's on the Ad Finem point. I think I made it pretty clear. Not a huge fan of them getting an invite over said teams such as TNC or even a Faceless, as I happen to be talking a little bit more there about them. So, EG, the fifth team.